Something that has been bothering me recently regarding women's sports is how when you peel back the layers of what the WNBA is, what women's sports is, and what a woman is, you'll be quick to find out that the same people rooting for support of women are rooting for their demise at the same time. It concerns me how the same people saying that trans women are the same people saying that women deserve to get paid more. But if men can be women and women can be men, then that makes us equal, and the term woman is null and void because it no longer has a definition and you can't define what a woman is, since we're all equal now and have the same opinion, right? Like, how is it that President Joe Biden invites Dylan Mulvaney, a biological man, to the White House to represent women, all while declaring when he was running for president that his vice president has to be a woman and that women deserve to get paid more? But it all goes back to, what is a woman? If you're saying a biological man is a woman, and then you're saying that you deserve a woman as a vice president, then like, isn't it you can just pick anybody you want? And let me be clear, I have no ill will towards trans people. This video is not trying to deny the fact that trans people exist. They very well exist. It is a thing. Trans people are real and they have valid opinions, but it really, if anything, this video is further solidifying that, because we're trying to understand what exactly a trans woman is and what exactly a woman is. Because there does come a point where we fight to be so inclusive that we start to exclude. Trans women are women. Honestly, I think a lot of this conversation got really heated and really mainstream when that phrase, trans women are women, started being thrown around. Because in order for you to make sense of the phrase, trans women are women, you have to change the definition of what a girl is, what a woman is, and what a female is. All of which is what Merriam-Webster and Cambridge Dictionary actually did do. They changed the definitions of all three of those words to include identity. So a female is no longer someone that is a biological woman. No, it is someone that identifies as one. We literally had to change the definition in 2020 of what a woman is for any of this to make sense in the first place. In the past, a female is a biological female, someone that can produce offspring, have eggs, you know, male and female. Like, this feels like a fifth grade science lab, but it's not. It's actually a really hot topic issue, which blows my mind. But anyways, again, in the past, a girl was a biological female child, and then a woman was a biological female adult. Easy and simple, cut and dry, it is what it is, but that's not the case anymore. As it stands today, a woman is anybody who identifies as one. That's it, full stop, period. That's the definition. I can say right now that I'm a woman, and that is in line with the actual definition. And not only that, but it grants me access to women's locker rooms, because if I'm saying I'm a woman, then that means you have to accept me for face value, and that I am a woman. I don't need to do anything. I don't need a wig. I don't need the surgeries. I don't need nothing. I can just say I'm a woman and boom, hell, I can even be in a sports league. So to be honest, with today's definition and how they actually changed the definition of what a woman is, trans women are women is it's a true statement. It's valid, but however, there is a growing faction of actual biological women who are upset at this and not accepting this change of definition, because to them, being a woman is not just an identity, it's reality. Like, that is who they are, who they were born as. What is a woman? A biological adult female. And what is a female? It denotes the sex that can bear offspring. You can identify a female down to our skeletons. And not even just humans, this extends past who we are as a human, but even plants. There's male and female plants, y'all. Like, there's a very clear and distinct difference between male and female across the board. And hell, all around the world, biological women have been holding it down. They have fought tooth and nail for their rights, and they deserve them. And they deserve their respect and to be praised and to be honored in such way as the women that they are. But again, in 2020, by changing the definition of what a woman is, we've generated countless problems that will forever stem from this. I mean, let's look at this trans example. Typically, if you were trans or in the trans community, you would try your hardest to assimilate, you would try your hardest to be passing as a woman, right? Like, especially when I was growing up, if you were trans, you really tried to emulate what it meant to be a woman. And yes, there are some butch women out there and more masculine women, but across the board in general, the standard basic woman, that's what a trans person would try to emulate. And it's like trans women were actually striving to get to that point. And to be quite honest, I find it a little disrespectful probably to the trans community that I can sit here and just say I'm trans without having to do anything. Like, I'm sorry, there is a distinct difference between me and Blair White. Much love and respect. And in regards to biological women, well, really conservative biological women, I think it's disrespectful that I can just sit here and say that I'm a woman and expect them to have to deal with it. They gotta see biological men in locker rooms. They're competing against biological men in sports. Like, We going through all this effort and feminism to hype up what a woman is and protect women, only for biological men, trans women, to come up here and replace them all. And it's wild to me because I reference specifically conservative women because I find that it's mainly the liberal women who are fine with all of this. I feel like liberal women are just watching their own demise, and they're who I'm talking about as far as the hypocrisies in the beginning of this video. How is it that you're going out one weekend protesting that trans women are women and men can be women and women can be men, but then the next weekend you're out protesting that men shouldn't be making laws about women's bodies? Well, which one is it? You've already changed the definition of what a woman is. So if men can be women and women can be men, does that not make all our opinions equal? And if it doesn't, are you then confirming that men and women are different? Title IX regulations. And remember how when I said we generate countless problems because of how we're changing definitions? Well, this is extended all the way down to the Title IX regulations. Just recently, President Joe Biden and his administration, I love ground news for this. For what we see on the left, they're saying that Title IX now explicitly protects the LGBTQ plus students, creating friction with Republicans. What they're not emphasizing and saying is that really Title IX was changed to protect the Q plus side of things. Because when you go on the right side, they're explicitly saying President Joe Biden administration expanded Title IX protection to cover sexual orientation and gender identity, preventing schools from discriminating based on gender identity in activities and facilities. And when you look at the left, they're not really saying that at all. It's just LGBTQ students, trans students, but then the right's really harping in on how this has opened up such a huge door for transgender students and people who are just saying that they're trans willy-nilly. You know, we go over here to the right, the coverage details, we see 95 sources for this story, which makes sense because it's such a huge deal. Last updated 2 days ago. It's a lot of sources, mainly the center reporting on it, but you do have mainstream news on the right and left covering this. We'll see that the factuality is very high. Only 8% of it is independent news and a lot of it is the media conglomerates, but again, it's a government issued ordeal, so it's safe to say that everything's pretty much correct. It's more so just focusing on how the left versus the right is really talking about this issue. And for those of you who are new here, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to today's sponsor of the video, Ground News. They have been sponsoring the channel for months now. I use them all the time for my content, especially when I'm researching key topics, and they are a great source to go to. And something to note for my followers outside of the United States is that using Ground News, you can use it international. You can change editions based on where you're at because they have sources worldwide. Some of the main things that I love about Ground News is that I can clear as day see what the left is saying and what news outlets, what the center is, what the right is, and so much more. You can see the biases, who owns the news. It's so thorough. And then blind spot, I love this feature just because I can clearly see what is the right talking about that the left isn't, and then what is the left talking about but the right isn't. So it helps me be clear and grounded in the, literally grounded in the news, and so I'm getting everything. So I'm not being blinded by one side or the other. Something that I think is really useful for my US followers is this 2024 election hub. Literally has everything you need, from clear as day, who's still running, the top electric news, and then you can come down and see all the different stories that people are talking about. You can clearly see the issues as well. So if you want to know more about the economy and what each side is saying, you can come here. Social issues, gun violence, environment, the list goes on. I swear to you, I wouldn't be talking about it this much if I didn't find it this valuable. Because unlike everywhere else where you get your news, Ground News is subscriber funded. The ads-based business model is a source of a lot of problems in our mainstream media, and given that this is subscriber funded, it gets rid of all of the noise and fake media out there. So with that being said, you can go to grounded.news/Amir to see through the misleading narratives and stay fully informed. Additionally, you can sign up for less than $1 a month or get up to 40% off their Vantage subscription this month only. What does this mean? Essentially, it means that biological men can take advantage of both scholarships for both men and women, because you can simply say, oh, I'm a woman today, and then boom, you have to respect that, and I can apply for this female scholarship, which now there's really no difference between male and female by changing all these definitions, because not only does it not stop there, but biological men can have full access to women's bathrooms, women's locker rooms. Hell, they can even be roomed with women in dorms. Now, of course, this gets enacted in August, and we'll see how far people take it and how crazy it gets, but that's what it's opened the door to. Like, that's what people can actually do. But regardless of that, it's just a matter of the fact that biological women are just being thrown to the curb just to respect the people trying to emulate them. What wasn't discussed discussed yet specifically was trans sports, and they said that they're going to get to that later on, and they're going to have a whole revision on that, but we'll see what happens with biological men in trans sports, but it's already a hot mess as it is. Trans women and biological women's sports. You know, it's not sexist to point out that the top 100 fastest men on this planet are all faster than the #1 fastest biological female in the world. That's just a fact. It's not sexist to say that on average, biological men are stronger than biological women. That's just a fact. That's just what it is. That's just how we are. And hear me out, I'll agree. Have there been trans women in biological women's sports who have lost to biological women? Yes, there have. And I'm also not going to sit here and say that just because I'm a man, I'm stronger than every single biological woman out there too. No, some of them can beat my. What I am saying is that the truth of the matter is that men and women are just different, point blank period. Don't know how else to say it. We're literally just different beings. Because if we weren't different, there would be no point to transition. Trans people are transitioning from one thing to another. It's a man going to a female or a female going to a man. So if you're trying to sit and argue to me that we're all the same and there's no difference, then what's the point of transitioning to begin with? Like, half of this stuff makes me feel like I'm going crazy, but that's what happens when we're not even talking the same anymore. And when you're changing definitions, now you just open up the door to all these new ideas and problems and issues when we really could have just kept it as simple and clean as it was. Because again, like I've mentioned in other videos, it's not like all of a sudden, boom, oh, half of America just hates trans, hates the LGBTQ, hates the gays. No, it's because of a specific things that most and mainstream trans people and gay people are promoting and doing. It's the mainstream trans people that are really sitting advocating that they deserve to be seen as women just for simply saying that they are. It's the mainstream gays that are trying to get all the respect and love when they're sitting here trying to have drag queen shows for children. It's like there's a rhyme and a reason for everything, and I'm not gonna sit here and just accept that all of a sudden this country is extremely hateful and bigoted towards us, because I know they're not. I see in my comments, I see there's rational, normal gay people out there, and there's straight people who actually respect and love the gay people too, but they don't stand with all of this that we're talking about, with the changing the definitions and what the trans community is doing, the LGBTQ community. I can go on and on. We've overstepped boundaries. Literally, we would not be in this situation today if we didn't change definitions and if we left children alone. We would be fine. Like we were from marriage equality around, especially when it got passed like in 2015 up to 2020, that little gap was fine. And this is a whole other video topic I'm getting into, but it is quite funny that all these nonprofits, all these LGBTQ nonprofits were pretty much fine, especially after gay marriage. Like, it was getting into a slow season money wise, because a nonprofit can't exist if the problem still exists. If the whole goal of a nonprofit is to solve an issue and that issue is solved, there's no more money and there's no more nonprofit. So of course, money's the root of all evil. You got all these nonprofits getting bored with the gays. They moved on to the TQ plus community, and you see that when you log on to these nonprofit websites, and it's all just trans issues that they're related to, because the LGB is fine. The LGB is different from the TQ plus. It needs to be split. I'm tired of being drugged down with it, but I'll get into that in another video, outlining how these nonprofits are just really cash hungry at this point. Like, the gays are fine, but with this TQ plus, it's never ending, and they're constantly gonna be fighting and trying to raise more money and just get rich and rich. But I digress. Final thoughts. Like mentioned before, we are striving so hard to be inclusive that we are now starting to be exclusive. We're starting to exclude biological women, all at the sake of, guess what? Biological men, which is so it's so sad. It's not even funny, but it's literally just like, women have fought so hard for their rights only for it to still be taken by a man. That is crazy to me. It's so unfortunate, but thankfully more and more people are speaking out against this. Hell, even more people, more trans people, like my friend Blair White, she speaks out against this all the time. And if you're unfamiliar with who Blair White is, I highly recommend you look her up, because she is an amazing individual that, you know, maybe we'll work together soon. Who knows? But with that being said, I really appreciate y'all taking the time to be here. This is, you know, how I truly feel that the trans community is really changing what it means to be a biological woman and erasing them forever. And I want it to stop. And by me wanting it to stop is not saying we need to erase trans people or eradicate them or think they don't exist. No, both parties can exist, but we need to understand that they are different and they are separate. And that's what I want to say here today. So again, thank you for taking the time to be here, watching this video, sharing my content. It means the world to me to have you here. And like I say in every video, do know that if you put your mind to it, if you really strive hard in your life, you can achieve anything you put your mind to. You will be successful, you will be healthy, you will be loved, you will find your friends that you want, you will find the love of your life. It all, but really though, it all boils down to starting with you. and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, your mental health, your well-being, and everything else will blossom from there. But you have to have the trust and the faith that it will. Because listen, I've talked about my life story a lot on this channel. I've been through hell and back, and I really thank my mindset, my vision, my manifestation for what I have today. So with that, I'll leave you with that. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Love you guys a ton. Deuces.